bit. So Adrian, if you don't mind watching the arrivals as they come in and admitting folks as they do arrive, we can go ahead and we can get started if Chuck would like to begin.
Thank you, Sean. So welcome everybody to our first joint MRPA MASTMA webinar. I'm very excited about it. We started conversations with MASTMA last year, and this is the beginning of the fruits of that conversation. So we're excited to have all of our non-MRPA members with us today, and we hope that this ends up being a very fruitful time for you to spend with us today. Just for the MRPA members that are on board, our board of directors did authorize us this year to provide continuing webinars for free. The directors around the state agreed to pay a little bit more in annual agency dues, and so we will be continuing these webinars for free for the next year, which I think really is exciting because our numbers are so high, much higher than when we did in-person training. So Sean, I'll turn it over to you. Is Michelle on?
I don't believe Melissa has joined us yet. She may be joining us, but I think we can go ahead and just keep rolling through.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chuck. So I'd like to also thank everyone for joining us today. I'm Sean Beaumont, the Training and Education Committee Co-Chair for the Maryland Recreation and Parks Association, otherwise known as MRPA, for some folks who may not be familiar. Today we have the pleasure of bringing together various groups from within the green industry to have a facilitated discussion on how we interact. The main sponsors of this event are MRPA and the Mid-Atlantic Sports Turf Managers Association. You'll hear us refer to that as MASTMA. And like Chuck said, this is our first collaborative virtual event that we've done. So we're really excited to see how our two organizations and hopefully some of the other organizations that are represented in the audience can begin to build some cooperative relationships. So today it's going to be an organic conversation amongst the panelists, and it will be facilitated by Patrick Coakley of Dura Edge Products. During the session, we'll ask that you keep your microphones muted, and that'll help us cut down on background noise. But if you would like to raise any questions, and we definitely encourage everybody to do so, please just type them into the chat. For those who didn't hear me say it earlier, there's a little button at the bottom of your screen. If you click chat, it'll bring it up, and it's just like typing in a text message. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it on over to Patrick.
All right, thank you, Sean. Thank you everybody for joining us today. I was excited by the wide range of response that we got from all different parts of the industry. Thank you, MRPA, and thank you, Mid-Atlantic STMA. And these two organizations have such similar, if not the same goals, and that is safe and playable surfaces for athletes of all ages. And both the organizations share members. And as a sports turf manager myself, I know the educational and networking opportunities provided by MASTMA, but I also want to mention to all the MASTMA members that are not familiar with MRPA to please check it out. The professional and personal growth programs they offer are great. And like Chuck said, this is the first of hopefully many collaborative efforts between the two groups. And that is a nice segue into the reason that we're here. The title of this panel discussion is Recasting the Turfgrass Profession. It's a discussion on the past and future of how golf, sports turf, and landscape work together and redefine how these factions of the industry interact. My personal experience is probably pretty common. I was a baseball guy, but I always had at least one superintendent in town that I would speak to, bounce ideas off of, and borrow equipment. And many of my peers did the same. But at the macro level, I just never really saw these groups working together in any way. There was not a contentious relationship. It was just completely indifferent. And as each group seemed to do their own thing. So our panel today is going to discuss this and give their own experiences and see if we can all figure out how to combine forces and take advantage of this really potential Goliath that we have. So with that, let me introduce the panel. First off is Logan Freeman. He actually wrote the article that was the inspiration for this discussion right here. Logan Freeman, he's an Ohio native, has been the golf course superintendent at Mountain Branch Golf Club in Joppa, Maryland for over 9 years. Logan has an undergraduate degree in environmental and occupational safety and health from Boise State University and a master's in applied turfgrass management from Penn State University. He's a 10-year member of the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America. Thank you for being with us here, Logan. Guest number 2, who is currently having some really bad technical difficulties, so hopefully he'll be able to get in here. He's running around DC somewhere trying to find a Wi-Fi connection. John Turnauer is currently in his 11th season as the Director of Field Operations for the Washington Nationals and his 18th season in Major League Baseball. And prior to working on athletic fields, John worked at a private golf course back in his home state of Massachusetts while at home during summers from college. He contributes that time on the golf course as the trigger to his interest in working in the turf industry. He is a North Carolina State alum and has managed fields in many different climates, from the Carolinas to the Mid-Atlantic to Southern California. John has hosted countless concerts, special events, including the 2000 NHL Winter Classic, the 2018 MLB All-Star Game, and of course, the 2019 World Series. And there he is. Hopefully he can hear us now. John, wave at the crowd. There you go. All right, we can't hear you yet, but we can see you. And like I said, maybe you need a whiteboard.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Perfect. There you are. All right. Our last panelist, last but certainly not least, Cliff Driver. Cliff is a certified sports field manager and graduate of the University of Tennessee. Cliff is the athletic field program manager for Montgomery Parks in Maryland, responsible for construction, renovation, and maintenance for over 500 athletic fields. Yikes. With over 30 years of experience in the athletic field industry, his passion is to provide safe recreational experiences for youth and adults. Cliff's focus is on increasing athletic field data-driven decisions and is pushing boundaries at the parks and schools levels for better playing surfaces. So lots of different perspective and experience in this panel. So all of you, please use this chat box and I want to hear your questions and your input. But Logan, I want to start with you, and I want to I'm going to throw this question to each and every one of you so we can get the ideas from the different perspectives that you've come at it from. But Logan, your experience, take us through it. Have you worked with, whether it be sports turf managers or lawn care guys, or, what have you seen from your golf background and your golf perspective of the groups working together?
So, to be honest, the vast majority of my career, it's just been doing golf. Originally, I've never had a conversation with Parks and Rec or anybody of that nature until really, the last 5 years, maybe. Started to be some positive movement, some change into that direction. I've always had admiration for the positions in sports turf, especially. Just always think that's neat. It's sometimes a little more high profile to see baseball or football or whatever on the television, which is nice. We get to see golf, of course, but it's just for me, that's the same old. I've seen golf courses, so it's nice to see the sports turf side. To be honest, you said it right, when there was like an indifference towards the other positions. Sports turf did their thing, golf did ours, parks did theirs, and there was nobody working together. And I'd kind of thought that was strange, but that didn't really click till I went to that meeting with the formation of MASTMA, and just was in a room to where the only people I really recognized, per se, were like sales reps, industry reps of that sort of nature. And I found it fascinating that, that sports turf directly was battling the same issues that I battled every day, and they had a slightly different approach maybe. But the one thing I noticed, I developed a career with Nicole Sherry at the Orioles, and we just right away hit off really good on what do I experience and what do I do? What does she experience? What does she do? And that aspect just kind of went from there to where, holy cow, there's a completely untapped, group of resources here that golf's missing out on. And I think that, sports turf and lawn care and the university side of everything, they're missing out on what these other groups, everyone has to offer. There's so much to gain from each other, because ultimately we are trying to, grow grass, and especially around here in an extremely difficult climate, where you need all the help you can get. And it might be borrowing equipment. It might be, you're tight on one product, you're short and you need something. Well, what's wrong with having, 20 guys to ask for a little bit of product to help you get through, instead of just the 2 superintendents in your area or whatever. So building that network and expanding is just beneficial 100%.
Good. Well, John, give us the perspective from somebody that's been in professional ball for quite some time. What has been your experience in working with other factions, and what do you see?
Yeah, and I think Logan summed it up perfectly on what he was mentioning. And, I would say over the last 20 years of me being in the industry, most predominantly in sports turf, yeah, we do focus among sports turf managers, but as Logan had mentioned, there's like a whole other untapped resource network out there for us. Whether that be on the golf course management side, the parks and rec side, home lawn care, and what have you. And, there's just so many great resources out there for us. I think the one thing that we all have in common is that we're managing turf. Our work setting is different. What we're managing our turf is separately. What I do at my work is differently than what Logan is doing at the golf course and what Cliff is doing at his facility as well. But the one common thing that we have is that we're all managing turf. And, one thing that I've learned over the years of networking is, to stop being so narrow-minded and go ahead and tap into those other resources out there. And, the things that I have learned over the years, talking with golf course superintendents, talking with friends that are in the private school sector or the home lawn care sector or parks and rec, a lot of times they are exposed to so much more than, say, what I am at my facility, where I'm only managing 2 acres. And when you talk to somebody who is managing multiple acres, they're being exposed to a lot more different environmental conditions, different stresses out there on the turf. And it really kind of opens up your eyes a little bit of what truly is going on out there. And it allows us to be better prepared on our end as well. So, I'm a big believer in, looking into all those resources that are out there, from sales distribution, vendors, researchers at the university level, golf course superintendents, all facets of the industry. And there's just so much information that's out there that we can all learn from. So, again, I'm just always look forward to talking with other folks within the industry and trying to gain as much knowledge as I can. And over the last couple of years, we've had a great partnership with our equipment dealer. And each month we have other folks in the industry come down to the ballpark for games, and that has really given me the opportunity to meet a lot of different people in our industry, certainly in the Mid-Atlantic area, whether they're golf course superintendents or vendors or what have you. But that has been a tremendous learning opportunity for me and a great networking opportunity as well, to talk to other folks that are in our industry and dealing with the same stresses and environmental conditions that we're all dealing with here in the area. So, again, Patrick, I just wanted to say thanks for putting this together, and for Logan and Cliff for being on this as well, and certainly looking forward to the discussion here the next hour or so. So looking forward to it with everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Well, Cliff, I want to hear what you have to say on this topic. It's like John said, he's got 2 acres and you've got, I don't even know what the acreage is. You've got an entire county. So how do you see it from your angle?
Sure. So again, thank you starting off for hosting this, both MRPA and MASTMA's, coming together to bring some collaboration in our industry. So I did start off kind of in lawn care with a family business. That's where we had originally started. And then it kind of morphed into sports turf construction, renovation, and maintenance. So kind of touching on all things on that side. Haven't had as much in golf outside of some of our trainings here locally with, Maryland Turfgrass Council and some pesticide recertification or whatnot, but always admired the turfgrass industry for, or the golf course industry for the dedication that they put into it. As a golf, enthusiast myself, I can tell you that I feel bad when I go play golf because I take at times huge divots. So Logan, my apologies. I haven't come to your course in particular, but at times I try to do my best in repairs. From where I'm at is I started off, in sports turf with STMA. Was thrilled to see when MASTMA resurfaced. To bring our sports turf managers back together in this area. I was involved with STMA for a number of years and then tried to dabble into MRPA and worked with executive leadership there about trying to bring some turfgrass knowledge and training to MRPA. When we start talking about quantity of fields around the country, by far our largest sector is our parks and our schools. So bringing that education and that knowledge over to that side and having the STMA members or MASTMA members share their experiences, the golf course as well, because we all have different challenges. And, hats off to Logan for what he does at the golf course. And John, your challenges that you have with the Nat Stadium, it always looks fantastic. And we have something a little different that we've got a little over 500 fields that we maintain here in Montgomery County. Some of them at local parks with no irrigation. And then we go to some of our higher end facilities with irrigation, and some of them have bleachers and grandstands and whatnot. So my biggest thing is just continuing to push the training forward, that we're all going to training, trying to get the same thing, which is, how to improve our facility, how to improve the culture within the industry, and coming together collectively to really succeed. Because we all have challenges, especially here in the Mid-Atlantic region that, I think as STMA has said a number of times that if you don't like challenges, don't grow grass in the transition zone. So, we're all kind of facing the same thing, and sometimes we all need to vent, right? And sometimes the best person to vent to is another turfgrass manager, regardless of what their concentration is, just about what we're dealing with diseases or drought or whatnot. And look forward to continuing our collaboration. So thank you guys for hosting this.
All right, thanks, Cliff. And, I may stay with you here for a second because I know, in my career, we've all probably experienced this where if you just work in no matter what faction, everybody assumes, like people would assume I was a landscaper too. And I can tell you, I don't know a darn thing about landscaping. So, let's talk about the lawn care part of the industry, Cliff. And, a lot of those guys are sports turf managers by default. A lot of them do a lot of support. If they're not taking care of the field directly, they might be doing the cutting or at least the fertilizing. So where's the separation there? That's a part of the industry that them in sports turf especially should be hand in hand.
Yeah, especially at our level, with the quantity of fields that we have. We've got some large contracts that are out there to help us maintain some of our turf grass. Some of those focus specifically on cutting, and we bring in some of our lawn care industry to help us with that. And then we get a little bit more specific into some of our nutrient management packages and cultivation practices. But yeah, there's not much difference between a sports turf manager and a lawn care manager. Maybe just a little bit of difference in terms of, wear tolerance or traffic tolerance on sports turf compared to home lawns. But as I talk to some of my colleagues, they always want recommendations about their backyard, right? And I'm sure that Logan and John go through this as well, that what should I do with my backyard because it doesn't look very good? And the first thing I always ask is, what's your traffic look like? And 9 out of 10 times they'll tell me they have a dog Are they a 3 dogs? And we talk about traffic tolerance from dogs. It's not only from players, right? So the home lawn area, the home lawn section of the industry is dealing with some of the same challenges we are, just not with foot traffic, maybe with animal traffic. And we have the same thing on a lot of our local parks, because even though there may be a soccer field sitting in the middle of the park, to me, it's a soccer field and the park exists around it. To most of the community, there's a park sitting there, and then there's a soccer field that sits inside of it, right? And it's just different views about how you look at that. But we do a lot with lawn care, with our lawn care managers. They help us out. And, I think we're sharing some of our resources and some of our knowledge and training and, encouraging them to get certified in the state of Maryland with, the urban fertilization certification or pesticide certification and whatnot, to try to raise that bar. And they're teaching us about some things logistically that we can learn from them about how to set up mowing routes and programs when you have large scale operations like we do. So I think we play hand in hand, and I'd love to see us just continue to grow on that.
Well, Logan, let me throw this to you. I think as much as anybody in the industry, the golf course superintendents have to wear multiple hats. I mean, you could be an arborist one day, landscape, you got the golf course itself. So, I mean, the arborists, we haven't really talked about them yet either. So, where do you see that going? With all the different hats you got to wear, where do you go for help?
I think that, has been said here that the more people you get to know, just the more resources you have for like an arborist, or I can, maybe if I need some tree work done, a perfect example here at the golf course, got to know a guy who has his own lawn care business and stuff like that. And he became our contact for any tree work. And I've had a couple of them do that. But another thing would be if I need some work done, and I don't really know, contact Cliff and be like, who do you use? And it's that simple. It's that simple to have that contact where you can reach across and get those answers, made. And we all wear several different hats. There's no doubt. There's one thing I think it's important to add a little touch of something different on is a lawn care owner, it's their money. So that's an added pressure on them and an added skill of managing. They're the business, a lot of them are the business owner. And, that makes some topics a little more sensitive, and I'm totally, understanding and aware of that. And that's very encouraging to talk to those people and learn, because I'll tell you who's not really wasting money. That's somebody where the money's coming out of their own pocket. So you can learn some pretty interesting tactics from them. And that's kind of, where we've gone. And the, to go back on some of the stuff that was, John had mentioned about, he only manages 2 acres. Well, okay, I have 264 acres on my property. Cliff manages far more than that on his, but I don't have multi-million-dollar people playing my property. So I think in the golf side, there was a little bit of, well, John he just manages 2 acres. Like you could do that. I could do that with my eyes closed. If somebody blows their knee out on a poorly managed, Major League Baseball field, that's a big deal. Like I don't even know what that pressure would be like. Like, and so that's what's so neat about this industry is that each little niche has its own really cool things that everybody can learn from. And, what I kind of learned from the sports turf side of things is maybe an added detail, like an attention to detail, whether it's the infield or whatever, that I find really neat. And that's maybe that's something that I can get lost in the 264 acres and maybe I need to look real small in some detail items. And that's kind of, things I've learned from that. And then the park side, we all go to baseball games, and the vast majority of us either have children that play on fields, and we hope they're as safe as they can possibly be. Or when we were kids, we played on these fields. So a lot of us play golf. We all benefit from the environmental, aspects of what we all do growing turf grass. So there's quite the interweb here of all of us tied together. And that's important that we really start to flesh that out and find out exactly how we can all work together. Events like this are great. And, even if it's socials for our different groups, just to help get people face to face and to learn exactly, what this person does, and to then therefore have a little skin in the game. If lawn care, in Montgomery County or whatever's getting pressured by some changes, whether they be legislative or all these things on different counties down around, the DC area, like, hey, that now affects me in Hartford County because I know somebody that's going to affect their job and what they do. So I have skin in the game now. So that's important for all of us. I think that's what this whole big picture is, and what I wrote the article on was that really, if we all have skin in the game, we're a lot stronger as a turfgrass industry as a whole than if we're individualized and separate out.
Well, John, I want to go to you, and let's talk about another side of this issue. And I know in my particular experience with STMA, there are, and well, let me just say it this way. I've been guilty. I came up in professional baseball in the minor league level. And more than once, in my younger days, I was looking down on my nose to the park and rec portion of it, right? And and that was a big mistake. As I got more experience, I realized what those guys had to deal with. And heck, my job was easy compared to this. So let's talk about that tribal nature that tends to happen in these trade organizations. It happens in STMA. You get different factions, and so how can we start working together with golf, with landscape, if we have our own little tribes in our own family? Have you experienced that? And what's your perspective there?
A little bit of yes and no to that, Patrick. But what I have found over the last couple of years, one, as you grow in the industry, as you mature in the industry, and with the advance of obviously technology and different social events and associations being formed, I think that's certainly opened up the platform and the window for a lot of us from the different portions of the industry to come together. I think that it's opened up the window for all of us to open up that line of communication. And I think one of the biggest benefits that I've experienced over the last couple of years is not only being a member of National STMA, but more recently being a member of MASTMA. The last several years being a member of GCSA National. And I just found that being involved with these associations has exposed you to different parts of our industry. And it has really got you start thinking, as I mentioned earlier, about what we do as a whole in our industry. I had an opportunity 2 years ago to go and speak at the Eastern Shore GCSA chapter annual conference. And that was an eye-opening experience for me. I was nervous going into it. I was going in as the sports turf guy to talk to a group of golf course superintendents. So I was a little bit nervous about that. What was I going to be able to bring to the table? What am I going to be talking about? How is it going to relate to their day-to-day jobs? And as nervous as I was going into that, what I've quickly found out throughout my presentation was that how much common ground we truly do have. The stresses that we have at the ballpark equate to a lot of the stresses that the golf course superintendent deals with as well. And really through my time there at that conference it was really a lot of idea sharing and a lot of information that we were talking about. And I think it opened up their eyes as much as it opened up mine. And it truly was a great experience to be involved with that. And why I mention that is because here we are today. We've got Logan as a golf course superintendent. We got Cliff Driver on Parks and Rec. We've got myself and everybody else that's on this call right now. And we're all coming together to share ideas and strategize and talk about our industry. And it's these opportunities right here that open up the window for all of us to engage with our day-to-day jobs and the stresses that come along with those things. And it's again through these that we can only grow as an industry together. And you know, I certainly see this just continue to keep growing as we move forward. And I think you know, as time does go on, I think that you know, open up these platforms and us to be able to engage in conversation certainly is going to benefit everyone within our industry.
Yeah, Cliff, can you weigh in here? I mean, I think, you know, John makes a lot of good points here. It's a lot of things. The more we keep talking, the better off we're all going to be. You know, so what's been your experience from that level?
Sure. So, I mean, the one thing I guess I always go back to is back in Maryland in the early 90s, kind of going through like 2004, 2005, something. We all joined together, meaning sports, turf, lawn care, and golf courses with Maryland Turfgrass Council. I think that's where everybody got their recertification credits. Everybody belonged. Everybody used to go to the University of Maryland, training day, education day. And it was fantastic because you would meet people just like what we kind of do at STMA. While those are, you know, sports turf managers, you're sitting next to a golf course guy, or you're sitting next to a lawn care guy, and you're all kind of exchanging ideas about, hey, I tried this product and it worked, or I tried this product and it didn't. And just exchanging that information kind of brought you together. And you'd hand out a business card, and you might not talk to him for another year, but you may see him again the next year, and you strike up a conversation about, how are things going? How's your business? Then I think we did a really good job back then, and I think we were a little splintered for a while. And here lately with MASTMA and MRPA and Maryland Turfgrass Council kind of coming back together for their annual event, we're pulling everybody back in, right? So the one that we had in Baltimore last year, I think was fantastic. Now we were still somewhat divided, and it's random that we're having this conversation between the three, but there were three different rooms, right? And the one room was dedicated for lawn care, another one was sports turf, and another one was golf. But I saw a lot of different faces moving in and out, depending on what the subject, what the presentation was. I think we're going in the right direction. MASTMA sharing some of that information with MRPA and STMA coming down, that at one point we were all very siloed on the national level. Local was a little bit more of a collective unit. We deviated from that, but we're coming back. So from my standpoint, I love it. Two of my staff are previous golf course superintendents, and they bring a ton of knowledge from the golf course side about some of the things that they've done that they're now incorporating in the sports turf. And they're now extremely passionate about sports turf. I couldn't see them anywhere in the near future going back to golf. Also some work-life balance, things that sports turf at times has an opportunity. That would be the off season for John. I understand that during the season's madness. But I think we're going in the right direction with continued trainings like this and bringing people together. And as John said, our vendors service all of us, right? So anybody who's kind of, product distribution in the Mid-Atlantic area, they're touching all of us. So I think we're going in the right direction. I just love to keep the effort and the enthusiasm up.
Good. So Logan, on the golf side, the local superintendent chapters, do you have those internal rivalries? I imagine you would. I don't know where public versus private. I don't know. Do those happen?
I'll say this. I can speak for some outside of the Mid-Atlantic, guys I know, they might have the issues of like that. The Mid-Atlantic is very strange, and I'll say Maryland, Virginia sort of area, to where everybody wants everybody to succeed. Doesn't matter if you're, the lowest level public, or if you're a super high-end private club. Everybody helps everybody here. And I think that, this sort of coming together is something the entire nation of turfgrass needs. But I think we're uniquely set to start that kind of fire, to kindle that fire, because everybody knows how hard it is to do what we do here. And so, you know, in our different groups, everybody seems to help everybody. I haven't run into any issue, and I bet if you talk to any superintendent or assistant in the Mid-Atlantic chapter, that they would agree that, you know, we really reach out and help everybody. I don't know, you know, sports turf is the same sort of thing. Lawn care, I'm assuming, you know, that's a little different because, you know, obviously there's some competition there. There's competition with golf also. You know, obviously we want more rounds than that guy, but you kind of want to beat everybody while they're at their best. You know, you want to do your best and you want them to do their best. And ultimately that's what we have. And the golf courses I have right around me, we have a very good relationship. We will share some stuff. We'll help each other out. If I have something just sitting around that they need, it's like, you know, yeah, let's help each other out. It just makes us all look better in the end, you know, as an industry. So that, you know, that's important. And I think, you know, going on Cliff's point with the MTC, I think that the MTC's getting fired up to realize their location again in this thing as being where everyone can come together. And you know, we have some board members, you know, Patrick, of course, and I'm on the board, and you know, Jeff Reinhardt's on here, I see, and I don't know, there's probably more. I just have to look at the full page. But, you know, I think that role of coming together in the fall and having that conference whenever we're able, or if we're able this year, you know, where everyone comes to one location. That's just, I think that's so important. And I think it's important that, you know, we start to move towards a period of time during those conferences where we're all in the same room, doing universal topics to everybody, whether that be managing personal stress. We all deal with that. Managing, you know, our finances, personal finances. We all manage that, you know, things that we would all benefit from as a whole. Doing those together, whether they be 3-4 topics in that, and then maybe branching out into more specifics to satisfy requirements maybe for certifications and stuff. And I will say, I went down to the MATE conference in Virginia last year. I spoke down there, and I guess, I don't even know when that was, January maybe or something this year. But the first day, we didn't talk specifics about turf. There were like 6-7 speakers, or there wasn't necessarily just specifics about turfgrass. And it was fantastic because I learned about how to manage hiring or whatever for minorities, the importance of that, how we all need to work together. You know, these sort of things that we all can benefit from. We don't just have to go learn about the new coolest thing that kills dollar spot. Like, there's more to this industry than that. And the relationships. And I just feel that that's where we're headed. And we have to head that way, to be honest. If we don't, we're going to get run over. So it's time to unite and have one voice when the time comes.
Definitely finding everything you guys saying is certainly encouraging. There's a really good positive vibe that you're all bringing here. So with that, I want to switch over. We've got somebody from the landscape side, Mark Schlossberg. I hope I'm saying that correctly, from Maryland Association of Green Industries. Mark, there he is. Okay. Can you give us your perspective? You've been listening to what we're talking about from the lawn care side. What have you been seeing, and what have you seen in your career?
Thank you for letting me get on. So some people in this group know it, but some don't. So I've been in the industry since the late 70s. I'm a Maryland graduate in agronomy. They don't even have agronomy anymore, but so, you know, I've been in the lawn care industry, you know, mostly doing the treatment type. My company is called ProLawn Plus up in Baltimore, and we do treatments. But, you know, since the early 80s, I got involved in the government relations side of the industry. First, I just want to say that, and again, I am the past president of the Maryland Turfgrass Council back in the late 90s when the new farm was, you know, being transferred over. And president of a group called the Maryland Association of Green Industries, which puts together lawn care, golf course, pest control, Eastern Shore's a member, Mid-Atlantic's a member. And I'm also on the board of the Maryland Green Industry Council, which is the arborists you mentioned, and the greenhouse growers, landscapers. So it just makes me feel really good that you guys are all talking about bringing the industry together. I mean, a lot of this talk was about from the technical side and just, bonding and just trying to share information. And obviously my favorite part of the industry is the technical side, but obviously being in the chemical side of the lawn care business, in the urban areas, we are under a lot of scrutiny and we're like the low hanging fruit. So it's, again, I've been dealing with issues in Annapolis for the last 30 years. And now, as you mentioned, it's been Montgomery, Tacoma Park, Montgomery County. Now it's Prince George's County trying to do the same thing. So what I just wanted to add was that it is so important for everybody in the industry, whether it's suppliers, whether it's, whatever side, landscape, golf, pest control, anybody that's dealing with the products that we need to do our job need to be involved in the process. One of the reasons that some of these things happen in, like for example, Montgomery County and Prince George's, is we don't have participation of enough people. The activist groups that would like to put, have no pesticides being used, period, are a very active group with social media. They have time. A lot of them are, don't work full time. They have time to go to Annapolis, go to county council meetings, whereas we're all trying to make a living. And the only thing that we can do to try to offset it is get our customers involved, our members involved, to try to make noise. And right now, and I see Bob Mann is on here from the National Association of Landscape Professionals, who've been doing a heck of a job trying to deal with Prince George's County. But Prince George's County's ban is worse than Montgomery County. It includes more landscape aspects of it. So I don't know all the details of it, but anyway, I just, I'm glad to hear that MTC is becoming more active. And I'm just saying that I'd like to do anything possible to help contribute. I'm kind of been like also a behind the scenes person. I have been working with the ag community, with the, the agricultural legislative people, all these different factions of the group. Some of them, even like the retail side, like Scott's or whatever that sells to retail, sometimes they have a different agenda than the people that sell to us, so, and sometimes they don't all communicate with each other. So I've been like the person behind the scenes to make sure that we're not hurting each other when it comes to any legislative initiatives. We've been pretty good in Annapolis. Most of these bills that have come through with fertilizer and, nutrient management and, pesticide regulations, we've been pretty good. I mean, the chlorpyrifos issue for the effects, some of the golf people use it, but, it hasn't been anything that's going to put anybody out of business or whatever. So I don't know, like I said, I'm just happy you put this together, and I don't have close relationships with anybody from sports turf and, some of the suppliers that sell to sports turf, but I really, would like to have, relationships and know people in all aspects of the industry from when these things happen, that we have, relationships with legislators and we can communicate in the industry. And Turf Council's just, Vernon and Logan has done a great job trying to help, but it's, it's unfortunately it's never enough because, the groups that again are anti-chemical, and I'm sure as our kids' generation are the ones that are making a lot of these decisions, it's going to be even tougher than it is for us right now. So,
right, well, John, a lot of what Mark was saying, to me, it comes down to a certain aspect that we all face, and that's we all work for employers generally that don't necessarily understand our profession. They don't know the science and the details of what we do day to day. Should they? They're running big organizations to some point. That's why they trust us. But when it comes to, extend that to organizing and lobbying, some of the things that, sports sort of may have to get political as golf has done, as landscape has done. How do you see that dynamic? Because it's one we all face. The people that are direct reports don't understand what we do. How have you dealt with that in your career?
Yeah, well, one, I just want to say, Mark, thanks for your input there. So it's certainly neat to hear your perspective on those matters that you mentioned. But Patrick, to your question, fortunately for us, well, let me backtrack. What I will say is I think sports turf is behind the curve on trying to get out in front of things from the legislative standpoint. I think the golf side, the GCSA, has been a good front runner for that. They've certainly been leading the charge and all that. And I do think that that's where sports turf falls behind. I don't know if we're trying to ride the curtails of what the GCSA is doing. But certainly I think sports turf needs to get involved. I think it's important. I think we need to get ahead of this. And again, if we can all unite as an industry, it certainly puts us all in a better position. For me specifically, we have not received a whole lot of pressure from our organizations or anyone involved with the stadium as far as our management out there. Again, we are fairly limited on what we do out there, on the products that we're using, the timing of those products and things along those lines. So we certainly are mindful of what we're applying, environmental hazards and whatnot. But all in all, I can't really say over the course of my career on the sports side that we've received a whole lot of pressure or questioning with regards to our day-to-day management out there. Certainly am aware of what is going on out there, certainly on the golf side of things, certainly what's happening up in Montgomery County and some other counties in the area as far as pesticide restrictions. So certainly something that we're keeping an eye on. But, I just keep going back that on the sports side of things, that it's something that we think that we need to probably start getting a little bit more active in and, making sure that we're, fighting that fight as well with the other associations, other industry, other parts of our industry as well.
Well, Logan and Cliff, how do we get the general public to understand what we do? Like Cliff, you're tight, like Logan was talking about it earlier, you take care of 500 fields. These are fields that our kids are using. These are fields that we're using in some cases for the wannabe athletes and all of us. So how do we get the guy that lives next door to understand, like, the trained professionals that are keeping us safe? How do we overcome that hurdle?
It's a great question, and we've started with some of our senior leadership. We're one of the largest park systems in the country, and our senior leadership has 8 million other things to worry about other than turf grass. We have a monthly meeting with our senior leadership that we do a presentation for kind of turf grass or athletic fields about what's going on and projects that we have and directions that we're trying to go. And I've been very blessed in the fact that they have continually provided unwavering support, which is the best case scenario. One of the things that they kind of touched on was how do we engage the public, right? So about 2 years ago, we put on an event where we brought out all the various aerification equipment. And we talked about the need for aerification. We transitioned that over to kind of a demonstration about how we were going to transition from a cool season to a warm season. And the public's never seen this, right? And we had a ton of questions about how does this work and how do you know when to do this? And trying to provide some of that education back. Our second, kind of public demonstration of a field day happened about a year ago. And it was fantastic again. I think we had like 200 people who attended from our public, with elected officials and community members and whatnot. And it was an education day. that we talked about cool season grass and again, aerification practices and whatnot, and the reason why we continue and the different aerifications. So we've been very blessed with some resources to be able to have linear aerification and sud aerifiers and deep tine aerifiers. That when you have as many fields as we do, we have kind of a rotation for the methodology of aerification that we're doing. And then we kind of transitioned down to a Bermuda grass field. And we talked about top dressing, and we had some different varieties of warm season grass sod that was sitting out there. And we talked about, at the time, it was Riviera, Latitude, and Patriot. And we had them sitting there and educating about the different sizes of the leaf, and some work better than others. And it depends on the setting that I think a lot of the public has bought into the fact of Bermuda grass, just like they have in tall fescue or bluegrass. But then when you start to get down in the granular variety level, to be able to show them that there's a step forward on that and there's some science behind what we do. I think people, at least in this county, are starting to, starting to see what we're doing. The feedback that we've been getting from the community. One of the first things that I tried to implement when I got here was a nutrient management program. And it's already starting to pay dividends because we have healthier plants that can take more traffic, and they're more drought resistant. Out of the 500 fields that we have, I think we have about 22 that are irrigated. So think about 400 and something plus fields that are non-irrigated. And we're trying to manage high traffic turf grass with non-irrigation, or with no irrigation. So our public is coming along really well, I would like to think. We're going to plan another field day similar to what we've done in the past. We're going to have it this spring, but this thing happened that we're not allowed to talk about called COVID. So we had to kind of postpone it. But we're going to have it in the fall. And we would love for the whole industry to come out, right? That invite the golf course industry, our sports turf industry, lawn care. And it's an opportunity for you guys to be able to see at least what we're doing and our ideas and where we're going. And then, kind of have a Q&A at the end where we kind of open some things up. And we let some people get in some equipment, and that was fun. Of course, we had to have, that was the pre-social distancing, right? Because if you have someone that didn't know how to operate a piece of equipment, you've got them in a large tractor. But it's working really well. That our engagement with our public has been really positive. And again, I'd welcome everybody on this call to come out to the one that we have in the fall.
That's awesome. So kind of along the same topic, Logan, the sports turf guys, we stole the joke that the golf guys used to use. You got this Carl Spackler syndrome, Bill Murray's character. You guys got nailed by that. But, like Cliff said, the topic we're not supposed to talk about has brought, it seemed to me like superintendents right to the forefront, because everybody wanted to continue to play golf. So, what about from your perspective on the golf side as far as letting the general public know what we do?
So, yeah, I think, this is the most important, probably the most important topic that we have as an industry is how do we educate the general public on what we do. I don't think we need to educate golfers necessarily on what we do. It's really the people that take their kids to play soccer on Cliff's fields or baseball, right? Because they're like, oh, you guys just do this, this, and this. So golf, there's a program called First Green where kids come out. I think it's like 5th grade. They come out, get their hands dirty, learn about exactly what we do as golf course superintendents. It's a STEM-based program. It's exploding. Parents love it. Teachers love it. Students have a good time. And we're working on, okay, if we do it in fifth graders, let's do it again with 10th graders before they go to school, like picking college programs, stuff like that. Maybe we can get some more people involved in turf. But as a byproduct of that, people are just becoming, more educated. Our biggest issue, right, is fear. If people don't know, then they fear, and then we all know the response to fear. People kind of panic, and this whole situation going on has kind of showed that. But as an industry, I think this is where we really learn, or we lean on people like Cliff and his organization to to educate what the industry does as a whole. And this is a great example. You know, you inviting everybody out to explore, because, you know, to be honest, I don't know exactly what goes into managing Parks and Rec. Like, I don't. So that's a great opportunity for me to learn that. So then I can promote what you do. You can promote what we do. It goes all around. You know, it's a full circle thing. And I think that, you know, I've started reaching out to some local, you know, our local representative for the Senate and stuff like that. He's been out toward the golf course. You know, I don't know how many times he said, wow, it's so pretty out here. And there's butterflies, there's deer. You know, this isn't Silent Spring where we're at. Like, what we're doing is beneficial for the environment, and we're all trained professionals. And to be honest, I think that's lost a little bit on the general public. The fact that we're all very educated doing what we're doing, and we're very measured. And, you know, there seems to be an idea that we just broadcast insecticides everywhere and there's no life here, and it's just green, green, green grass. And that is far from the truth. So, you know, it's important that each group finds its own little way to reach out, whether ours is First Green, you know, and Cliff's got his group, you know, coming out and learning about aerification and the benefits of all that. What they do is awesome. Sports Turf can do the same thing.
Logan, you just broke up. You might be
Sorry.
freezing up.
Can you hear me now? Are we good? Uh-oh.
Okay.
We good?
Technical difficulties. I think Logan froze.
Oh.
There you go.
Am I good?
Okay, you're good now.
Okay. So yeah, I think it's important that each of us kind of finds our own way, but as an industry as a whole, you know, we do kind of drive forward. But I really think it's the parents is where we're going to get the most gain. In the voters' hands a little bit is where we need to start to focus.
All right, very good. John, I know you're up against it here. I wanted to hit you with one more question if we got time, and you can close out if you need to. But along the lines of what these guys are saying, what can we share? You know, data, training, that kind of thing. What are the things you see that's just easy place to start?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And you are right, Patrick. I do apologize. I'm gonna have to hop off the phone here for a meeting that I have to get on as soon as I'm done here. You know, I think there's got to be a starting point, Patrick. And I'm not sure that we on the sports side are quite there yet. And I know that you've been in the sports turf industry your whole career, and I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I think that this is a little bit where we as an industry do lag behind a little bit. And where do we start? You know, there's certainly a lot of information sharing that's going on out there. There's a lot of collaboration. There's a lot of communication amongst all of us. You know, everyone in the sports turf industry, we are a great network of professionals. And how can we expand that? How can we tap into what GCSA is doing? How can we tap into what other organizations or associations are doing to get out in front of the public eye and promote our industry, promote the value of it, promote our environmental stewardship? And, you know, I think that needs to start at some point. And again, Patrick, I might defer to you on this, but where do you see it from the sports side? Am I wrong saying that maybe we are a little bit behind the curve on that?
Well, I definitely think so. I think sports turf is certainly late to the game. You know, I think what STMA has done has been great. You know, from the time I got into the organization back in, I think it was 2001, started where we needed to start, teaching our own profession how to be professionals. You know, because when it comes to, like Logan was talking about, you got a lot of people here that are very educated, but you know, we didn't exactly act very buttoned up back in those days, you know. I know I didn't. But now I think we've progressed. We've progressed to a point where we can start taking advantage of, you know, the influence that we can have now. I think coming up now, I think, you know, Cliff and I, we've talked about training. How can we share different training aspects and things like data and all the new things that are coming along? And, you know, Cliff, I'm gonna, well, actually, John, you probably got to go. Do you want to say a quick wrap up and goodbye, and we'll kind of continue?
Yeah, again, I really do apologize that I have to hop off here. I had a last minute meeting pop up. I also want to apologize for the technical difficulties I had at the beginning here. I lost my Wi-Fi connection. When I finally was able to get on, they started up a power washer right next to me, and then I was scrambling to try to get on. And I'm sitting here at the lobby of my apartment building. It's just traffic going in and out and packages coming in. So I've got a lot of background noise, so I apologize. But no, Patrick, I want to thanks for reaching out and extending the offer for me to join here today. I want to say thanks to Mid-Atlantic STMA as well as MRPA for putting this together. I think this is certainly a great starting point for our associations and our industry to come together and to unite. I've certainly learned a lot here listening to Logan and Cliff as well. And Cliff, I'm certainly going to reach out to you as well for the field day that you guys are going to be putting on. So I look forward to that. But again, I just want to say thanks to everybody for being on here today. I think that this is certainly a great opportunity for us all to come together and share some ideas and open up our eyes a little bit about our industry.
John, thanks for your input. It's been absolutely fantastic. I loved having you here. Good luck with what the future holds with you guys there. And we'll let you sign off, and we'll continue for a couple more minutes and close this thing out.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys.
Thank you. So yeah, Cliff, we've talked about different training that, MRPA and MASTMA is trying to work together, but, expanding the industry a little bit more. Where do we start? You've done plenty of training yourself, and what about the data side of it? I'm never been much of a data guy, but it can be such a powerful tool. So what are you doing there?
Yeah, so a lot of what I'm concentrated on right now is creating the collection methods for data, and then figuring out how we interpret that into our industry. Now I'm looking at it specifically for turfgrass, but it crosses those boundaries into home lawns as well as golf courses. And I'm stealing some golf course stuff, right? Because you guys, for a long time, have been ahead of the curve. You guys had the money to fund all of this research, and that's where the research comes from. It is from golf course funding that we've been kind of riding you guys' coattails for a long time, which we appreciate. Thank you. One of the biggest things that our senior leadership is all about is they don't need to understand the turfgrass side of it, but they need to see the data so that they can start correlating. And that's how we get resources for the industry, right? So STMA came up with a PCI, Player Condition Index, a few years ago. And we're trying to kind of mold that into something that works a little bit better for us. So we're looking at it from, soil moisture levels, compaction, turfgrass, quantifying the amount of turfgrass that's out there. I hate to say quantifying the amount of vegetation that's out there, but sometimes we do live on annual and perennial vegetation that sometimes aren't, the desirables that we always look for. But trying to put that data together and then be able to correlate that into a score, right? And the scoring that I think everybody is most familiar with is kind of a scoring system that we all grew up with a 0 to 100, and you get a grade, right? And if you get an 88, you're like trying to write the plus sign behind the B to show that like the 88 is really close. But if you bring home a report card that has a bunch of D's on it, you got some efforts that you need to put into to improve. Right. And I think that's where some of our resources need to be driven, or how we get additional resources, is that we're showing that some of our fields aren't maybe A's and B's, but yet we're dealing with C's and D's. And quantifying that is extremely difficult. So we're looking at some data collection on that side. One of the things that we're most excited about right now, with the amount of fields that we have, on a 7 a.m. by Saturday, or on Saturday by 7 a.m., we have to do an update about whether the field's playable or not. We have a system called Rain Outline, and our community's all logged into it, and you would go to your specific field and check and see if it's in a red, yellow, or green status. We understand while it's great in principle, in practice, it's just not there. We can't visit 500 fields by 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning. So we started investigating how do we move forward with getting some data to help us make these decisions without having to be on site. And soil moisture sensors have been in the industry for a long time. However, they've been directly connected to irrigation systems, right? And that's how you kind of read your data off of it. There's some new wireless technology that's kind of hit the market. They hit golf courses first, which thank you again, Logan. But we're trying right now to incorporate that into our park system. We've got a pilot program where we're placing those in some of our fields, and we're trying to correlate between a soil moisture level and playability on a field. Data driven, it also increases aerification as we can see that soil moisture decline. And then there's a game there that you have to play between too much moisture declining with Logan understands it with tees and fairways and green boxes or greens that we're trying to use data in so much of what we do especially with surface compaction that I think another sector of the athletic field industry has really bought into Clegg hammers and F355 for surface compaction, and we're trying to get caught up on that side ourselves. So a lot of what I'm doing is just trying to put data together, because the people who are making these decisions, specifically elected officials, they don't need to know the turfgrass side of it. They need to see the data so we can get additional funding to make these surfaces better.
So, Logan, it's, from my perspective, definitely, and Cliff mentioned it a couple of times, golf has been so far out ahead of, well, especially sports turf. So you guys are like the granddaddy of this whole group here. And with great power comes great responsibility. What can you tell us? Can you give advice on the sports turf side or even the lawn care side? What's your angle there?
The GCSA and the golf side for a period made a really strong effort to promote the professionalism of what we do, and that has gone a long way for everything to just the day-to-day of how we function, large meetings, to getting funding and getting research money and stuff. And I think that the continued I'll just say, so some people might not like how I'm saying this, but it's hard to promote the professionalism of your industry if you're wearing work clothes to a large meeting, right, where there's important professionals there. So that's something that's important. You're wearing ball caps to meetings where there's professionals. As much as I'm wearing a baseball hat to this, or a ball hat to this, that's one of the things that GCSAA started making a big push on, was almost like a dress code. For large events, it's we'd prefer you're not wearing hats and stuff of that nature. So there's some of that. Now, personally, I have a little bit of a negative taste to that in my mouth a little bit. Let's not alienate people because of dress code. Because we can learn from everyone, but I'm just kind of to give you an idea of where golf went and where they've been. And, I think that's a difficult topic to manage, but it is something that might need to be approached. And I don't know if there's anything really wrong with that, even if it was just let's try and not all wear hats to the event. This is professional, and so I think there's a move with that. Golf is blessed to have some good research and stuff. And I'll say that I've been in discussions with the, GCSA and people in Kansas, and they're excited about what MASTMA is doing, and that there's a local interest in us working together, because it is, as Cliff said, kind of like we've been dragging the whole industry along a little bit, and everyone's kind of been benefiting off of our backs, our money. So it's awesome to see sports turf wanting to also do that, you know, and to be a part of that. And if they come on board and that begins to happen, and I mean, what aren't our like corporate offices like a couple miles from each other in Lawrence? Yeah. Like, I mean, so I was talking with, you know, with Red Evans, our CEO, and he's awesome. And I talked on the phone with him about this, and he was like, you know, we're going to reach out just down the road and let's start to see how we can all work together. In my mind, like, how awesome would it be for us to have not every year, but maybe every 5 years, like a giant turf expo where GCSA's GIS conference is with the STMA at the same time. There's one giant trade show. We all know trade shows are falling apart in the industry as a whole. So maybe that's something that people could get behind and we're to all be together in one giant conference, you know, place, one city, wherever that's Orlando or sometime in Chicago or whatever, you know, one of the large conferences. Like, to me, that would be awesome to do something of that nature. And I think that, you know, as a whole, golf is excited to see everybody else start to take it a little more serious as well and show support. And I know that they're excited to work together and be, you know, hand in hand, not this golf looking down at Sports Turf, which is very dangerous in my opinion. Anybody looking down their nose at the industry is very dangerous. So I think it's great that we're all going to try and be on level playing field.
Those are some great points. And the looking down your nose, like I said, earlier in my career, I was guilty of that. And luckily I matured through that and smartened up at least a little bit. So guys, this whole discussion has been great. Personally, I couldn't have asked for more. This is exactly where I was hoping we'd go on this thing. We're a little over an hour right now. So I just want to give you guys an opportunity to kind of close out. Just some closing thoughts and well, I'll just leave it wide open. Whatever the last point you want to make to hit home, and then we can sign off and let everybody get back to work. So Cliff, I'll let you go first.
Sure. So I start off by saying that I love the fact that MRPA and MASTMA is working together. Love to see our golf course friends joining our conversations as well. And the home lawn industry is so big and so strong that they are maybe the largest player out of all of us. And bringing them into the fold is critical for what we're trying to do as a green industry. I'd like to see us involve a little bit more training across all sections, and a little bit less dividing where we have been in the past, but we're breaking down some of those barriers, right? Through conversations like this. If you would have said that we would have a Major League Baseball groundskeeper, a superintendent, and a parks level guy on the same conversation on a web-based, conference 5 years ago, I would have laughed at you. I would like, we don't play well together, right? And Mark sharing his information about the legislative side and home lawn side, that I think we are moving forward. The biggest thing again is just education and communication. That I wrote down on my piece of paper to call Logan after this was over. That Logan and I've never met. Maybe Logan and I need to, post-COVID obviously, get together and talk and sit down and have dinner or maybe a beer. That I think we've missed a lot of that over the years about trying to get together, and maybe it should be a bigger event than what we typically do. And love the fact that Logan's talking about bringing the two organizations. And I can tell you, if you'll throw a third organization with NRPA in there, in my experiences of going to our national conference, it's larger than either of the two of our put together. So, I mean, there's a ton of interest. Parks deals with turf grass outside of the athletic field realm, right? That there's so much, especially during COVID-19, that we talked about from a mental health standpoint about walking through a park and having those experiences with decreased blood pressure and overall mental health. That I'm excited. I'm excited about where we're going. And I'd love to see the partnerships that we continue to build, the relationships that we continue to cultivate. And a lot of it just goes to overall all wanting the same thing. At the green industry, we're all looking for, ways to succeed. And whether that's in leadership or professionalism or hiring, or then you get into some of the technical stuff with turf grass and nutrient management and soils and moisture levels. I think there's a lot to bring to the table with all of us. And I hope everybody enjoyed the call today. I'm going to go back out and catch up with some of our staff. We're sprigging today, so excited about that with a new Bermuda grass variety. So I'm going to run and catch back up with them. But let's keep these going, and let's get some more panelists out here that from a Parks and Rec side, I can promise you that we're moving into support for turf grass greater than where we were in the past. And we'd love to be able to partner with everybody, both on sports turf as well as golf.
Awesome, Cliff. Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. And thanks for the input. It's been fantastic. So with that, Logan, any closing thoughts from your end?
I just, same thing. I want to say thanks. When I sat down and wrote the article that kind of helped, spur this, and this is exactly what I had envisioned. Groups being together that have never been together, and then seeing the value in that. And, as I kind of look down through the names, there's all sorts of, different groups, and that's awesome. And, one of the guys on here, Bob Mann from NALP, after I wrote that article, he reached out to me, and, we ended up getting together and having lunch. He came to Mountain Branch, and we had lunch together. And I'm not kidding. It went from, it was like 3.5 hours, and like, where'd the time go? So it's amazing. It's such an industry of great people with a common, goal. And so that's what I find just very promising about this. And to be honest, the whole COVID-19 stuff just showed our value as an industry. It showed our value to a lot of people. And I think it's time that we kind of keep that going. Like, all right, we got a little jump in the general public, maybe for parks, rec, just green space in general, the value. So I'm excited that we're doing this and love to continue this. And I know it's being recorded, and hopefully we'll all tweet and share and get it out there. And so people can ever, on their own time, see what good is coming out of the Mid-Atlantic region. It's pretty awesome. So I just want to say thank you, and thanks, Patrick, for, being the monitor and the MC of this thing. Although at the very beginning, you might have said I was from Ohio and I'm from Idaho, but I let it slide because I like you.
I definitely had Idaho written.
Yeah, and you said Ohio. And you know what? Everybody does that. Apparently the people east of the Mississippi did not learn states. But that's fine. I'll let that go. I'll let that go this time because I like you. You just owe me a beer, and maybe Cliff will be there too, and you owe him one.
Oh, I will definitely. I'm buying, no doubt.
Okay.
In my defense, my wife is from Ohio. I must have had her on the mind. I don't know.
Oh, man. Okay. I'll let it go then.
That's going to be my story. But guys, this is. I've loved everything you guys have said, everything you've brought up. I think. Yeah, everything. You hit the nail on the head. And to Logan's point, I think a lot of, from the question of where do we start getting these groups together, it's just simple. Just have conversations. You and Bob got together and just had lunch. And, we're getting some comments now from Lisa, they want to help. And Jeffrey Reinhardt, for MTC, I think everybody's here. We all work together in different organizations anyway, so let's just keep the conversation going and take advantage of this behemoth that we have sitting right here in this conversation. So thanks again to our panelists, to John, who's not here. He's off working. They got a lot they're dealing with, of course. Sean, I'm going to bring you back into the fold here. Anything you want to say closing out?
Absolutely. So I echo your thoughts there as well, Pat. This is an incredible chat that we've had here today. I think it sounds like there's going to be a need to continue this conversation. So I think for everybody on the call right now, if you tune into some of the social media and websites for MASTMA and MRPA, just to see not only this recording of today's session get posted up, we can see what future talks may happen. I'm going to go ahead and share a screen real quick so we can have this up for everybody as we end the session. Could everybody see the slide that's up there?
Yep.
We have some social media information and websites for the two main organizations here. If folks want to take a picture of that, that can help direct you to where the recording is going to be located and where any future advertisements are going to be as well. So with all that, I just want to say thanks to all of our panelists, thanks to Pat, and thanks to everybody for attending.